am back again with another message. I'm Kyra Weathersby, here to guide and encourage others to have a transformed perspective on this journey we call life. Let's get into it. So I'm here again with another movie metaphor. And spoiler alert. I just want to say that before we get into it. Spoiler alert. So if you don't know the movie, this is an old school movie around the 90s, 1993 to be exact. The Sandlot. I was watching this film, and I actually watched this movie later than most people would have. Like, this is kind of like a childhood movie. Most people have seen this movie growing up, and as kids, I seen it maybe like for the first time a couple years ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Lovely movie. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out before I spoil it right here, right now. So yes, in this movie, the kids have this thing going on with the Beast, which is basically this big, huge, I guess, scary dog that's in this man's backyard. Sometimes the ball goes over the fence, and if you've seen the movie, they get scared and they're like, "Oh, the Beast," right? And I came to the realization when watching it for a second time that the Beast situation that they have going on in the movie is very much like fear, very much like the mind, how the mind can work. When I say mind, I'm referring to, ego, the part that is in you that, we believe is a delusion, the narrative, the story. Anyways, so every time they play baseball together, sometimes the ball goes over the fence. Not every time, but sometimes it goes over the fence, and then they lose it, and they don't want to get it because it's the Beast. The dog is barking and, going crazy, and they're scared. Who wouldn't be scared of a huge dog that's barking? As a kid, I know I would be. So anyways, they don't get the ball because, they're not trying to get, bit up by the dog, which is what they assume, like the mind. They're scared out of their mind. No pun intended. And so they never go get the ball. But then, in the movie, one of the kids, I don't necessarily remember the character's name, but the main character, he gets his stepdad's ball, which was signed by a famous baseball player, and it accidentally gets thrown over the fence. They don't want to get it. They're scared, but ultimately they end up getting it. And what happens is they're scared to cross that fence. They're scared to go get the ball, which they can easily go maybe like knock on the door and say, "Hey," but there's all this fear going on. And then eventually, they kind of scheme up and make these little plans of how they can get it. None of it works. They keep trying to get across that fence and get back safely, back in the safe zone. Don't work out. So he ends up going across the fence, and yada yada yada. Fence falls on the dog. There's this whole, I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's this whole situation that goes on, and it turns out they help the dog after the fence smashes on or whatever, and the dog licks the main character. He just wanted to play. He just wanted to show love. He wasn't really this mean, vicious dog. So long story short, the kids are kind of like the not the kids, but how they're acting and their fear is an example of ego and how our mind works sometimes. How that fence is kind of like that split between fear and the truth, So they kind of don't want to cross that fence because they're scared of what's on the other side. So same thing goes with our minds. Sometimes we have these blocks up. We're scared of facing the hurt, the pain, the fear, or even emotions. You don't want to cross that fence because you're scared of what's on the other side based off all these assumptions and narratives and things that you've made up. For example, opening up or socializing, or maybe putting yourself out there. You're scared of what other people are going to think of you. So you're not going to cross that fence. You're not going to be vulnerable and really put yourself out there because of maybe you've been embarrassed in the past. Maybe people dogs you out. No pun intended. Look at me. I'm not even trying. Whatever the case may be, because of past situations and things that have happened in your life, or what you grew up on, what you were taught about being yourself or putting yourself out there and how the world works. You don't want to do it, The ego, the mind, the thoughts are running through and saying you can't do it, this is gonna happen there. People are gonna hate you, they're gonna hurt you, da da da, and so you stay closed off, you know. You put this block up, you put this wall up. This is very common for a lot of people. They put this block up, they put this wall up because of things that happen, because of their perspective, their view, the narrative, the illusion and story they created in their mind. And that's okay, because we all go through this. Can't nobody say that they haven't, you know, done this. This is what ego, the mind, the thoughts are, you know, before, you know, having greater awareness and consciousness and, you know, all that good stuff. So it's like you're not trying to cross the fence, because that's going to take you out of your comfort zone. And sometimes we feel as if we cross that fence, we're going to lose who we are. We're going to lose who we thought we are, what we thought the truth was. There's some fear because you don't know. It's just uncertainty is on the other side of the fence. It's only what you think is on the other side. And that's how it goes, for example, like in life, in different situations, not just putting yourself out there, whatever the case may be. It's like sometimes we don't want to, you know, cross that fence because there's so much uncertainty of what's on the other side. But in actuality, it's all an illusion that we create in our mind of what's on the other side. Just like the kids did. They thought on the other side was going to be a beast that was going to, you know, rip them to shreds and yada, yada, yada. In actuality, it was just a sweet dog. They just wanted to play, and, you know, it was probably lonely. When everything happened with the dog and them crossing the fence, their problem literally got solved, okay? The problem with the baseball, I won't go into detail, but it got solved after they crossed the fence. Once you cross that fence, and let that ego dissolve and put that fear, the past, the burden, the limitations behind you and cross that fence, you never know what can happen. You know, your problems can be solved. A lot of the suffering is just from the narratives, the stories, and the illusions that we create with our mind. And that's not to judge it. It's okay. It's a part of the journey. But you have the choice, you have the ability, you have the power to conquer it, to transcend it, to keep going, and to have a transformed perspective. Don't forget to be better, be you, be blessed, and continue to have a transformed perspective. Thank you for tuning in to Transform Perspective with Cairo Weathers.